trying.
On that page.
We're on Facebook.
Facebook's
We're on
on.
Instagram, I think.
Instagram's coming up.
Not.
No,
No, they added a button. I got
YouTube's.
Instagram.
There we go.
It's not so instant.
YouTube is good.
Eventual gram is coming out.
All right. I think we're up.
And YouTube's good? All right.
And Instagram's up. Okay. Whoa.
All right, welcome everybody. Sorry we missed a week last week. I apologize. I was in Hawaii and having a great time. It was really fun.
This is our 52nd episode.
52.
Yeah. 52nd.
Show 52.
It's a year's worth of episodes. We've missed a couple
Right.
weeks, but
I think we've missed 3 or 4. But so I apologize for missing last week. Hopefully you guys were able to fill the time with something
TikTok.
probably not as productive, but yeah, TikTok would be good. We have a lot of questions to start with. This is a Q&A as always, so please submit anything you'd like to know from us. Certainly 034 related, automotive, general automotive knowledge. We like talking about that. Controversial topics, things that you've never heard a straight answer on. Please ask away and we'll give you one. We're here to clear up any BS. We have a strict anti-bullshit policy here at 034 Motorsport. So yeah, anything personally about Nate and I, we're always happy to talk. So let's dive right in. You guys considered making big brake kits for the B8, basically the B8 S4. We have big brake kits are a questionable area for us as a company that engineers, designs, and manufactures products. We can come out with a brake kit. We're competing with Brembo, Alcon, AP, StopTech, and like 40 other companies that all make good brake kits, big brake kits for these cars. So that's one issue is, are we really going to be able to bring anything to market that's competitive with, say, Brembo? No. Brembo's a world-class OEM brake manufacturer and innovator. So is AP. So, Alcon, I don't know if they do a lot of manufacturing for OEMs, but again, one of the premier racing brake companies in the world.
AP Racing has kits for those.
Yeah, AP, Alcon, Brembo. Am I forgetting anyone?
StopTech?
I said StopTech.
Okay. Racing Line.
Racing Line makes some brake
Not for
kits.
the B8 chassis yet, though.
No,
Not yet.
no. We are working with Racing Line because they do some really nice brake kits to bring some of their brake kit tech to the big Audi chassis market. So you will probably see something for the B9. I don't know if we'll do the B8, but if it's not that different and everything kind of fits up, then it may. So we're definitely working on some stuff. I don't want to make any promises at this point, but it could be that we will offer some Racing Line brake kit products in the future. But our time and energy is much better spent, focusing on the products that we do currently. I will add, we had this conversation about springs and sway bars initially before we decided to go that direction because, it was the same situation. We're competing with H&R, we're competing with IBOC.
KW, and all the other.
Hotchkiss is a big aftermarket company. But specifically H&R and IBOC, they're OEM type providers. But the opportunity for us there was that though we probably couldn't make a better spring than them as far as the quality of the material or the winding or anything like that, we found an opportunity in how they were addressing the problem of lowering a car and making it handle better. And as tuning professionals, as tuning enthusiasts, as people who are crazy about Volkswagens and Audis and live and breathe it, we were able to do that. And I would say that our spring and sway bar products easily match any kind of quality metric and far exceed as far as the performance and the perceived value to an enthusiast. We do that better than H&R or IBOC. So, when we feel like we can go into the market and truly offer a substantive product that solves a problem, that addresses a need, that makes you guys like driving your cars better, then that's when we'll jump in it. I don't know how much we could do for brake kits on that. Because, you know, if you put a Brembo big brake kit on the front of your car, you're going to get great braking performance. Now you just have to choose pad materials, and most of these companies have good selections of pad compounds to address any needs. So,
And you will need, no matter what brake system, you will
Multiple.
need multiple pad configurations if you're really going to be tracking the vehicle. And seeing some true road course driving, the stock, anything that's good on the street and is light dust or something you can live with on the street is generally never going to be suitable on track in any kind of, you know, tortured environment.
Yep. I have APR's dual pulley hardware and software. Could I switch over to 034 Dynamic Plus without issue? Will your tuning work with my pulley ratio?
Yes to all the above.
Yes,
There's no problem switching.
Well, actually, it's zero problems.
Zero problems. We actually,
What's the opposite of a problem?
it's a benefit.
Benefits, solutions, amazing shit.
It'll fix things. We're still running the promo, I believe.
Yeah.
Tuner switch. Yeah. So,
Upgraded.
so if you can verify you're on someone else's tune, you want to switch to ours, let our team know.
Yeah.
And we'll even kick you a discount. If you're going to do your TCU.
We just want to see that you actually have that tune in your car, and then we'd love to get you switched over to the best tune on the market. Absolutely.
Yep.
Is there a launch control limiter on the B8 S4 with advanced launch control?
The B8s don't have a launch counter in them like some of the other chassis. That's kind of a transmission dependent thing. So that comes around with a lot of the MQB cars and some of the earlier DQ250s where they've got a launch counter in them that you have to increase if you want to do more than, usually it's 200 launches. So that's not a problem we have on the B8s. And the advanced launch doesn't really affect any of that because it's not anything we're worried about there.
Does our TCU tune make it unlimited for any of the B8 or B8.5?
It's never limited in any way. And then on the, let me correct myself. There's no limit on either of those. And then we raise the limit to something you'll never hit on the DQ250s and 500s.
Can you pull up the JBX thing so I can see what that is?
Yep.
How adaptive are stage 2 and 2 plus tunes when adding a ported blower? They're not adaptive, but they're designed to work with ported blowers. I'll say it's proven.
We've tested it.
Yeah.
Countless times now. The ported blowers will get you a bit of efficiency, but it's not to the point where you're going to need an entirely new calibration to account for it.
Right.
You're going to have, generally a little better, ideally a little better air temps. You've got less pressure drop, from either side. It's just a more efficient, freer flowing path for the air, but it's not like you're transforming and moving more air through the blower at a level that isn't going to be accounted for just from normal variations in atmosphere and that kind of thing.
Now, our tune isn't necessarily optimized for ported blowers, so we actually have one. Is it on the car right now?
No, not yet.
Okay. We have one. We will be putting it on the car.
Yeah, but
and we will be evaluating it to see if there's
anything more. But I mean,
changes.
Yeah, all of the world record runs we've got, all of our other, all of our customer stuff out there. We don't do a separate ported file for anything at this time.
Yep. Are all your tunes a crackle tune, or do I have a choice to not have the crackle? Is that even a choice?
It really depends on what car we're talking about here, but the vast majority of them, you're going to have the option to turn it off depending on what drive mode you're in. If it's a test pipe file or some other file where crackles are enabled, in almost every case, you're going to have the option to take it out of dynamic mode or switch whatever mode you're in to turn that off.
Yeah.
So. Yep.
Is a catch can necessary for the 2.0 TSI? Was that like Mark 6?
Yeah, that'd be like Mark 6 or I guess V8.
Catch cans in general on Volkswagen Audis are not necessary to the degree that, like, if you just putt around town, obey all speed limits and posted
traffic laws,
you're probably not going to need one. The issue arises when you increase the power, when you spin the motor faster, when you increase cornering loads. I'm trying to think of an analogy here. Imagine, okay, here's an analogy. So it's like saying, hey, do I need to drink my coffee from a sealed thermos, or can I just drink it from a coffee cup? Well, if you're just gonna be sitting at your desk and not moving around too much, a cup works great. Are you gonna get in a car and drive around fast, or are you gonna be running, or being very active? Then yes, you will need a container with a lid that allows you to sip the liquid out of it, because otherwise it's going to spill everywhere. And so the oil in your oil pan is similar to the coffee in this mug. As long as I don't move around too much. But if I decide to start jolting this thing around and applying cornering forces up to 1G, then stuff's going to start to spill out. So we make these catch can kits mostly for people who are driving the cars hard. I would say they are required on track. The reason being, you will pump a lot of oil out of your crankcase into your intake system. And so that does two very bad things. One, you need oil in your crankcase, and then you don't want oil in your intake. So now you're like, you're pumping your blood into your lungs, essentially, and that's a really bad thing to do. So a lot of good metaphors today.
You're pumping out the metaphors.
Yeah. So anyways, if you do drive your car hard, if you do find that you have oil in your intake system, if you've ever taken your intercooler off and there's oil in it, if you take your turbo outlet or inlet hose off and there's oil, then you're going to want to put in a catch can. The catch cans we make work great for the Mark 6 TSI motor. And then on top of it, there's actually been a lot of engine failures on TSIs.
TSIs
on track
have some severe oiling issues, just from oil pressure and pickup. So yeah, if you're pumping all that, if you're pumping the oil out, burning it, and reducing your oil level, it's only going to be more of a problem.
Do catch cans reduce carbon in FSI or T?
Yeah, they reduce carbon buildup from the carbon buildup that's because oil is going into your ports.
Yeah,
there's the carbon is created from different dynamics inside the motor, and it's not only from oil.
Yeah, a large amount of it is reversion, back up the valve when the valve opens from the combustion chamber.
So we're hesitant to push that point too hard. My guess is maybe 10% of carbon buildup is related to having a catch can or not. So you're gonna reduce it, and why not reduce it by even 10% if you can? But the main benefit is that the oil no longer goes into your turbo inlet and doesn't clog up your whole intake system, and then also your engine is not trying to combust oil, which is not a good fuel. So it actually really lowers your octane rating and the combustibility of the fuel. I strongly recommend draining the catch can back to the oil pan, because if you're on track and you pump 2 quarts of oil out of your oil pan into the catch can, there's nothing wrong with that oil. It was just inside your motor. The only issue is it got thrown out of your motor, just like the coffee in this cup could easily be thrown out. But if there was a way I could throw this coffee in the air and it would drain right back into the cup, I'd do it. And that's what our catch can kits do. So they catch the oil and they drain it back to the pan. Now, sometimes people open up catch cans and it looks like mayonnaise inside there. Well, that's an emulsification of oil and acid and the water, and that's in the air. The inside of your motor looks like that too, and that's why you have to get your motor hot. Otherwise, that emulsified oil and water mixture does bad things inside your motor. But just like mayonnaise, if you throw some mayonnaise in a hot pan, it's going to melt. It will no longer be that paste. So the stuff in your catch can looks bad. It's not necessarily bad. The catch can isn't designed to take the bad things out of your motor. That's not what catch cans do. I think a lot of people think the catch can removes the bad stuff. No, it just catches the oil that's flying out of your crankcase and then manages it, and it should send it back to your crankcase so the oil can continue to do its thing. That emulsify, if any of that mayonnaise makes it back in your oil pan, it's going to turn back into water and oil, and the water will evaporate and it'll be evacuated through the crankcase breather system. So there's a lot of misconceptions about catch cans. We should
spend a whole episode on oil capture.
All right. Is no lift shift available for manual transmission cars running your tuning? Mk7 GTI.
Not at this time. It's something we've talked about a little bit. We may look into it more.
Yeah.
That would come along with we're adding the entire advanced launch control suite to the Mk7 GTI stuff. So that would be something that would come along with that.
No lift shift can work great once it's set up right, but you have to be careful. It's also a great way to like destroy a synchro or a gear. You know, if you do a real hard shift under power like that,
Yeah, if your timing isn't just right, yep.
you know, you could easily destroy a synchro. So you just want to, I would caution anyone to be careful doing it or be prepared to damage your transmission. Not to say that it will for sure.
Yeah, it's all up to you and your timing and how you how you use that no lift shift.
Yeah. For DAZA, new injectors were just installed with an upgraded Stage 2 E85 file, and all the pops and bangs are gone. The car is also running quieter than before. Any reasons for that?
No, the you should have. I mean, all the crackle overrun stuff should be the same between the two. If it's not, just shoot an email to tuning at
tuning
034motorsport.com. We'll take a look at that exact file for you and confirm things are all set. But no, there's no you shouldn't lose any of that. So we can take a look at that for you.
Would you make a Mk7 GLI Lowering Spring? Is this Aram?
No.
Or there's two people that want these?
Arm is with the Jetta, not a Jetta.
Oh, his is just a plain Jetta. Oh, got it. Okay. I don't know. Maybe
The GLI is just always a
the
tough.
GLI is
support.
tough. It's you just never know. Like, is there a market there? You know, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder like, is there no GLI market because everyone thinks there isn't one?
Right.
Like maybe someone should just come out and just focus on GLI products. It could be the next big thing. I don't know. We don't get a lot of requests for GLI products, but we will make a note. We would love to make products for any Volkswagen or Audi or BMW that people want.
Yeah, it's not like
we're here to make stuff people want.
We don't have anything against the GLI or haven't purposefully ignored it. It's just one of those things. It's such a low volume, low demand thing that we hear about. We have to prioritize the bigger stuff.
If you come to my house and you say you're hungry, I will cook you a nice meal. But if nobody's there, I'm not going to cook a big meal, right? So it's like we want to do it. We just want we need the products to sell, and we're not always sure on the GLI market how much demand there actually is.
Right.
This 15 years ago, I feel like we answered that 2 weeks ago.
We answered the 10 years.
That was 10 years ago?
10 years ago? 15 years ago.
Okay.
Said,
Okay, 15.
Great. Someone else 15.
Good. Okay. What was big in the tuning scene 15 years ago compared to today? So that would have been
Like right when I moved out here. So, I mean, that was just getting into like our EFI system was really getting into hot and heavy swings.
So in let's just say 2005 range, that couple year period there. The Audi, the old school, which now we consider the old school i5 market, that was really starting to heat up, and that's when I started 034. It was on the premise that like you can actually tune i5 motors like more than RS2 parts. And it used to be there was a lot of misconceptions. Say the guys that own C4S4s and Quattros and all those older cars, that the RS2 turbo is the only turbo you could put on that car, and there was like some MTM chips floating around, and there was nobody was like really tuning those, and so I was one of the first people to put like a Garrett T3 T4 on a 20 valve i5 or a 10 valve. I was one of the first people to build a header and put it on a 10 valve i5. People thought like the only exhaust manifold that will work is the RS2 exhaust manifold. It was really dumb. And then I had friends doing Integras and Hondas and Fords, and they had like all these awesome parts to play with. And guys in Civics were making like 500 horsepower with T3, T4 turbos. And I would go into the Audi world, and I was like, "Oh, that won't work. You can't put that on."
Yeah, you have to run a KKK turbo. They're oil only, and all these other.
So right around that time, I'd say 05, 06, the market really started getting it. And that ultimately helped us launch 034. And so, the i5 stuff was starting to get aftermarket turbos, aftermarket tuning, headers, and exhaust systems and things like that.
Yeah, we were doing like full like chipsets for the C4S4 for up to like 30 Rs with big MAFs and all kinds of crazy stuff. So
yeah, so that i5 market was really hot. Now the 1AT market and the 270 markets were still shit shows.
Yeah, the support was pretty terrible at that time.
There was no good tuning support. There was still there was this throttle cut issue because nobody knew how to really program.
Yeah, you know what a PCD is? A throttle cut defender. That was like the hot industry revelation was some diodes and some resistors to just trick the ECU into not cutting the throttle and shutting the throttle on you. So
and I remember, I think it must have been 06. I was at Laguna, and one local guy, his name was Tanner. He bought one of the first AWE Stage 3 turbo kits for the 2.7. This was like a big deal. It was the first aftermarket turbo kit that was released for the 2.7, and the power gains and everything were, and so he got it installed, and he went to Laguna, and the car just ran like shit. And I remember like passing with my A4 because the car was running so bad. And that was ultimately a tuning issue. AWE developed this turbo kit. They threw some Bosch green tops, which was like 3 generations older injector, and then they had some like really horrible GAC tuning on it, and it took them years to finally get that tune fixed. So the good tuning for 180s and 270s didn't really come around until like 5 years later. But we saw that as a huge opportunity, so we were selling full standalone kits for the 2.7 and the 180. Admittedly, it wasn't for everybody. Just now you don't necessarily want a standalone on your RS3 or whatever, but back then it was the only way to actually get control. We'd take the drive-by-wire off and convert it to a cable, and once you did that, we made it so that the ABS would work, the air conditioning, everything else would work, and you had full control over fuel, timing, and throttle. And so that ultimately, we had customers with 2.7s making 800 horsepower, while people who were trying to do chip tuning making 500 horsepower, the cars would barely drive. Yep. And then 1AT stuff was really heating up. We did a lot of standalones for 1ATs, big turbos, GT30Rs, 35Rs on 1ATs, 2-liter builds left and right.
Yep. Yeah, stroker builds.
But I think, like kind of how we talked about at the 10-year one, DIY was like really.
Oh yeah,
there was real DIY going on.
The amount of like polished, complete products you could buy for anything Volkswagen Audi was very slim. There were not a lot of companies.
We didn't sell a finished, complete product.
No, it wasn't expected either in the industry. I mean, most solutions you had to cobble together from either a couple different vendors or kind of source it and figure it out yourself. That's just how everything was, and it was very different time.
I'm trying to think of anything else notable, but I mean, also there was this thing like you can't turbo the 7A.
Oh, the coupe, coupe quattro motor.
The old coupe quattro motor, which was the normally aspirated 20 valve motor from the factory.
Yep.
It was the AAN 3B motor with a few small differences. And so I threw rods and pistons in one, and I ended up making over 800 wheel with it. And people were just like, that won't work. You can't. The 7A won't handle boost. Like the engine blocks are the same. Like you just have. And so I worked with a machinist, and I built this jig fixture to machine the 7A head for coolant. The coolant manifold, and the 7A cams actually worked great for turbocharging.
Yeah, it wasn't some rocky, lumpy drag racing cam like some people
Turns out it was just a stock cam.
Yeah, some people said it would be like.
But it had had more duration and overlap than the turbo cams, and so it definitely made good power up top.
Yep.
So yeah, I think, and e-commerce was just getting going. Although we've always done e-commerce since the very beginning.
Yeah.
But
Forums used to be a thing.
forums.
Much less social media.
Yeah.
Like
no, there was no.
it wasn't
social media.
Facebook.
No
It
such
wasn't.
thing. I don't even know. Like
Instagram. It was.
I don't even know, when did YouTube start.
Yeah,
YouTube
wasn't nearly as.
Barely getting, all that stuff is barely getting going. It's definitely a different world.
Yeah, it was mailing lists and forums.
Yeah, mailing lists were just dying off. Forums were really taking over. I mean, we launched Motor Geek in what, like 03?
Yeah, like
Probably
2 or
04.
3, something
Yeah.
like that, probably.
Good stuff. All right. Ultimately, I much prefer what we're doing now.
Yes.
And the state of cars in general. I mean, in 05, the cars people were tuning came with 150 or 200 horsepower, and you could get them to 3 or 350 reliably. Now stock cars are starting at that point, and we're doubling the power. And we get complaints about drivability or everything's not perfect. You guys don't even know.
Oh yeah.
If you weren't tuning cars 15 years ago, you're so spoiled.
Yeah, you can go on track now with basically a stock car,
Mm-hmm.
and leave with it still running. That was not something you could do in like 2001, 2000 through 2000, like I don't know what, 10, 15.
And I think starting with like the Mark 7, even the Mark 5 and Mark 6.
Mark 5, Mark 6, Mark 5.
Those
They were
nice.
They were new at that time. They would have been brand new in 2005.
But
so they were.
I think
track. It was
once we hit like B8 era,
for the B chassis, yeah. Good, but like B5A4, that was a struggle to keep happy on tracks. S4s were tough to keep happy on track.
S4s they're just
heat management.
too much
was
heat.
tough. Mark 4s weren't great. Same thing. Heat, and the 1AT just didn't like to be pushed that hard. Without a lot of work.
That I remember the first time I drove a Mark 5, I was like, wow, this is a nice car.
Yeah, the Mark 5s where things really started to come together.
Stock, it was like really quick. It was a really nice car. It handled well, but the power, it was like what you could do with the 2.0T compared to the 1AT.
Yeah, the direct injection was just night and day for those motors.
And the KO4, I mean,
yep.
The 1ATs, they really screwed them with turbo sizing, but then the motor's just not as sophisticated. So you get the cam timing and all that stuff.
The engine management wasn't nearly as refined. The direct injection really was a game changer in and of itself. So it was a huge leap. It wasn't just a 0.2 liter displacement jump. It was a pretty massive technological advancement.
Oh, someone's asking, why did you choose to not allow the use of OEM hubcaps on your ZTF wheels for the R8? It's keeping me from pulling the trigger for my V10 R8. Will you make OEM? We can. I've got nothing against it. That's actually the first time it's ever come up.
My biggest thing is the finish isn't going to match. You're going to have like this some chrome.
But we can make one.
Yes. Yeah, we can make.
I'm all for doing that.
The factory plastic melt.
No, we won't. We would never do.
We'd have to do an aluminum.
The factory plastic ones, no, we would not do that. But I'm up for making a cap, with Audi rings on it if people want,
if we can.
Yeah, I'm sure we can.
And that's another really good point.
Mark, write that down.
The factory caps and the factory, any of those plastic caps, literally will fall out of the wheels if you get them up to.
I don't know if I can even get this one out.
Yeah, I think you.
So ours, the factory ones melt. I'm sorry, HRE, but yours still melt. The last time I checked it, and so this was the thing. We used to run HREs on all our cars, and you go out on track, you do one session, you come back in, you park, and every time as the car cools down, all 4 caps fall out onto the ground. So we never wanted that to happen. So our center cap is held in with O-rings. There's 2 O-rings, and it's a very tight fit. It's track tested. They will never fall.
Yeah, we haven't lost a cap or dropped a cap.
Not even.
Well, right, we can't even pop it out.
You can't pop it out
with a little just.
If you had to take a screwdriver and spin it around and knock it out, but listen, we want your R rate to have our wheels. Your car doesn't have to be a rolling advertisement for us. So that's not the idea here.
Yeah, it's a.
You're the first person to bring it up, and I'd be happy to consider it.
Yeah, it's a fictional thing. It's not just a like another place to put our logo.
Yeah, no, but we would never. Again, the factory caps are problematic. They're I don't know I don't know how the R8 does because it's always had our wheels on it, but generally with stock wheels, you want to take all the caps out before you go on track. A lot of track organizations require you to do that because you don't want one of those falling out on at 100 miles an hour on the front straight and hitting someone's whatever. Let's see. Running your dual pulley stage 2 plus E40 tune with 189 crank pulley and 57 mil charger pulley. What IATS intake air temps would you expect to see over ambient?
That really depends on the state of your cooling. Do you have a larger heat exchanger? Do you have a upgraded pump? Do you have anything else in there? That's going to play a massive impact on what we would expect. I'm running, basically a 190 mil pulley on mine with the same upper, and by the end of like a quarter mile, things are getting into the high 70s, I think, right now, with no other, no meth, nothing else in there. So, that's kind of a benchmark that would be with ambient, with air temps starting, at 30 to high 30s Celsius. So, you can use that as a reference, but you really got to have a solid heat exchanger set up and ensure your pump is working. You've got a fully bled system. Those are going to play massive.
Yeah, but with those qualifications, you can always do a log and send it to tuning at 034 Motorsport. We are very, very busy. So
we've got a lot of logs we're going over.
Someone this morning,
Nick and Steve are going over them daily.
Said something that but it's going to be at least a few days before you hear back, unless it's like really time sensitive or urgent. Or
we try to jump on anything that's you have
a car down.
Urgent,
we'll put you at the front of the line. Just watch now. Everyone's car is down for the next 3 weeks. Are the power figures different running 94 octane on a 91 tune versus 94 octane on a 93 octane tune?
Yes, they would. Yeah. They would be. Anytime you're changing from a base tune where you go from 91 to 93, or your base low octane or minimum octane is increased, you should see some change in power. You're going to have different. It depends on the car, but you're going to have generally different timing, ignition timing advance, and boost request depending on the car. So you'll typically see some difference.
It might not be huge, but even in a stock car, if you go from 91 to 100 in the tank, it just feels stronger, crisper, happier.
Well, you'll get a lot smoother operation, especially as air temps and other temperatures come up.
The ECU basically eliminates any of the knock correction, at that point.
Yep. So you're going to get a free, couple, 3-4 degrees of timing, which just as temps
is noticeable.
Yep.
17 GTI SE. I have an APR High Torque 93 octane tune, and I'm 75% happy.
Good qualification.
Horsepower is fine. It's the delivery I'm not 100% pleased with. How does your tune compare? Thanks in advance.
It's smooth.
This is an area that I think we will easily beat that tune on, is smoothness and drivability. It's hard to say. I've seen some really high power numbers from some of those high torque files, and some of the boost numbers that APR has run on these tunes are just reckless.
Yeah, I don't know what generation, revision file this would be on.
Yeah, I don't know if they've updated it lately, but we dealt a lot with this like 2-3 years ago. With our R460 kit. People were comparing it to all these APR. They have high, medium, grande, tall torque files, venti torque. But I don't think we don't do that.
No.
We just have our one optimized file.
We worked on just trying to find a not a ridiculous amount of boost, a nice compromise that you're going to get smooth delivery across the power band that the turbo's not going to try and leave the building on.
But I mean, generally, I would put our drivability up against any tune on the market.
It's one of the things we strive for, yeah.
But specifically this era of tune,
Yes.
we can get you, I believe, at least 98.7% pleased.
I think so.
With the drivability. I don't know. You might lose a little power, and honestly, that's for a good reason. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
On
think
the
so.
road, see what customers compare it.
Yeah, I think
It's maybe 5 horsepower difference swinging either direction.
The issue comes when people go to the dyno, right, and they see like a spike or a blip or the peak number, whatever.
Yeah, especially on the GTI, that turbo is pretty well tapped out.
Oh, it is
by redline. So on the road where you're actually in that higher RPM band and driving it, you're not going to that low torque.
Yeah, my point
high
is
torque in the lower RPM band isn't really going to play a factor.
I believe on the road it'll feel just as fast, right?
Yeah.
But if you go dyno it, you might see a lower output, possibly in like the initial ramp up or torque at the torque peak.
Peak torque, yeah.
You know, where the APR files in the past that we've seen, again, they may have corrected this. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but the power and the boost is way too high at the torque peak, where the motor's most susceptible to knock and detonation. So you might see a little difference there, but on the road, it's going to feel smoother. It's going to feel just as fast, maybe even faster, and it'll be safe, and how it should be. So we have a satisfaction guarantee. If you'd like to, upgrade our tune, we can give you our upgrade deal, and we have a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. But let's get you above 75%. I think we can do better.
Yep.
That's like a C. Let's get into at least the A range.
Yeah.
Any new products coming soon for TTRS 8S?
Yep.
What do we got?
Catch can?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, surge tank.
Our fuel surge tank product that we've been talking about literally for a year now.
It doesn't feel new, but because we've been talking about
The development is finished. The engineering is finished, so we're working on manufacturing all the individual subcomponents, which is extensive with this kit. We just shipped one of these kits to Awesome GTI in the UK, and they're going to be running it on a TTRS drag race project that they're building. And
I think they're running it. They might already be running it. They're working.
It's probably up and running because we
they're
shipped
working on
it
the
like
card today,
2 weeks ago.
So
okay, good.
camber caster.
Yes, camber caster mount. So we haven't. So many of you guys are familiar with our camber mounts, which is a fixed camber mount that takes the strut top mounting position and moves it inboards, and so that product gives an additional 1.5 degrees of camber. So we are now doing a camber caster mount. So this not only moves the strut inboard but also back, and so it kind of splits the difference between the two. So we're still giving 1.2 degrees of camber, but you're gaining an additional 1.2 degrees of caster as well, and they're the same amount because it's a triangle. But we tested that on Friday at Thunder Hill.
Yep, last Friday.
And the initial feedback, I wasn't there, unfortunately. I was sitting on a beach, but the initial feedback was amazing. That turn in and mid corner grip and everything just felt better than the normal camber mounts because that additional caster, which really optimizes the camber curve when the wheel is turned. This is something you see on race cars where the struts will be back like at the base of the windshield, to get that caster. So I think it'll probably be hitting the market in like about 2 months. And we're very excited for that. So that's coming.
So Mark, that's 2 months you've got?
Yeah, you got 2 months, buddy. Sign off. We also have our PQ35.
Going back a generation.
Mark 5, Mark 6 fixed camera mount. So this is a fully spherical product. You want to hand model this, Nick? And again, so normally the strut mounts in the middle. So this whole thing has been moved offset.
Just realized our thing was probably cool.
Oh, yeah? Someone says.
Nope, I was just looking at our levels.
There we go. So this is a solid billet aluminum product with a spherical, and you would run this with the factory strut mounts the strut bearing, not the strut mount. I'm sorry, the strut bearing, and this should give about an additional 1 to 1.5 degrees. I don't know what the official number will be, but Nick Scambaluri is currently running these in his TDI and loves them.
Great MPG. Oh yeah, you get
Yeah.
less tire contact, right?
Crosswinds was improved as well.
Right.
So we have these two new products coming soon. I don't know what else we have for the TTRS. I know we have a bunch of stuff we're working on. Oh
Yeah,
yes,
turbo inlet's
our,
coming.
Our
for all-
cast turbo inlet. Oh, we have an engine catch can coming.
Yeah, lots of stuff coming.
We're not done.
Hybrid turbo tune.
Advanced, yep.
Yep.
Hybrid turbo tunes are
turbo
coming.
tune.
Advanced launch, all those features are coming.
Yeah,
We've
advanced
already,
launch.
We've already got that.
I think the advanced launch stuff's the most exciting thing.
Calibration wise, yeah.
Calibration wise, So
Yeah, the hybrid turbo is nothing to sneeze at. So.
do you guys recommend the JBX Driveline support? Yeah, I've seen these. I've never used one.
JXB, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, JX.
I think they wrote it as JBX.
Oh, they did. Yeah, it's JXB. Looks like a good product.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any firsthand with it
We have no experience, so
to yay or nay it, but
It seems to help a fair bit.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. It's a driveline bearing. We've done these on a lot of different platforms. Not this one in particular because it's a
there's a
serviceable drive shaft. So this kind of clamshell gets around that limitation. But yeah,
I'll say that when it comes to the drive shaft center support, this is not a opportunity for performance. How stiffly you support that drive shaft joint doesn't really affect performance. What does happen is when you stiff that up, you generate more NVH because the transmission and driveline is an extremely noisy part of the car. Like the transmission whines at like 1500 hertz, and it's deafening and annoying. So the fact that you don't hear that at all, I don't know if you've ever driven like a World War I tank or something like that. And it's just like, that's like the sound your transmission's making. So I would caution anyone from stiffening that up for no reason.
yeah, he does offer a couple of different densities on it. So
I would go
for
with
that very reason.
I would
because
just do a
gets,
soft one.
It will get louder if you go harder.
It just needs to last. It just needs to support the drive shaft. But if your drive shaft's balanced and installed properly, there's really no forces that need to be dealt with. The drive shaft support just has to maintain its integrity. We have our own line of drive shaft supports. We do not offer anything for the B8 because it's not serviceable. It doesn't come apart and go back together like the older drive shafts. So his is a two-piece part, and you actually don't change the bearing, do you?
No, the bearing stays.
So you just cut away the factory mount until the bearing's left, right. and a lot of times it's the bearing that wears out. So, but we have no experience. Who's the guy behind that? Jay Boynton. So we like Jay. Jay's great, and I don't think he would offer a product that wasn't thoroughly tested and reputable. So I'd encourage you to check it out if you're interested. We need to hear more about the B8.5 4.0T swap.
It's actually just a follow-up question to that too.
BS4.0T. So yeah, it's coming along. The engine is mounted. We have fabricated some engine mounting brackets. I haven't heard the latest. I've been gone for 8 days. Anything?
Latest is in place.
Yeah, I mean, it's hung in the car. It's set. It's there. So now it's down to wiring and just some chassis integration stuff.
Diff with the rear diff drive shaft.
Oh, good.
Driveline's in. So
great. Okay. So we're running a fixed non rear diff with an LSD.
I'm trying to remember where. No, I think it's. Is it on that one now?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember which model they ended up with.
With a limited slip.
From JXB.
Oh, from JXB. So there you go. Yeah, so we need to do the wiring and get the thing running and stuff like that. So
We'll have some content.
good. Yeah, we will be releasing a whole video series and media content about the build. So stay tuned. There's a lot more coming.
There's this follow-up on that question too.
What is it? Oh, are there any development products coming for the 4.0T, preferably cooling mods? We are working on various 4.0T products. We're looking at a full air-to-air intercooler setup to remove the factory water cooling. Because we're doing this project, you guys will see a lot of products come out of that. We will consider releasing any version parts that we think make sense, and then naturally from our efforts, we will develop performance products as well. And this project will also play into our 4.0T tuning program that we'll be releasing as well. So there'll be a lot of good stuff coming out. We need to get more into it to see what makes sense and what doesn't, but there's definitely going to be stuff coming. When will you release the tune for the B9A4Q5 platform? Not sure on the four-cylinder tune.
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet. Our focus right now is on the 3-liter turbo tune, and we're getting very close to releasing that. We can now flash the ECU. And we tested it again on Friday. I heard there was some issue in the tune that was
ironing out a couple
resolved.
of things that just some drivability stuff.
That's why we do this. And it was a hot day and at a hot, pretty tough track. So no, that went really well, and that was actually in Nick's SQ5. Someone's asking, how did Nick's SQ5 do at Thunder Hill? The sway bar and tune testing. So yeah, the tuning was good. We did create an issue, and we were able to solve it while we were at the track. And the rear sway bar feels good. We're gonna definitely do a front sway bar, but the rear sway bar on the stiff setting is noticeable and gives a night and day improvement. And I think that car can really use the front, which will really kind of eliminate any of the remaining body roll that the rear bar didn't get out. Mark drove it. He said it's definitely not a track car.
It is. Yeah, it will not transform your SQ5 into a track monster, but it does dramatically improve your driving.
It's good pressing moms. That's about it.
I'll keep the trailer on the back and take the track.
There you go.
It's a good track car for track cars. Is the 2.7T worth putting money into? Well, this is a
spicy question.
There's
going to be
there's no right answer to this. Yes, in 2006, people were dropping 20, 40 grand, like all the time. Like once or twice a week, we had $20,000 orders going out the door for 2.7s.
It really depends what your goal is. If you're, it's still that much to build up a 2.7. Like
here's what I would recommend. If you like the B5. You don't mind, the age of the car, the lack of any type of technology, that you may or may not have traction control or ABS or things like that. So let's say you like the car, you don't mind driving it, the AC works, you're comfortable with the amount of maintenance you're gonna have to do to it. I'd say put like a nice coilover suspension on it, like some KW Variant 3s. Put some 13-inch brakes on the front. And go stage 3 KO4 with Wagner intercoolers, our stage 3 KO4 kit, and tighten up the shift linkage. I don't know if, like, for the average person the full JHM setup, but some of the JHM components really tighten up the shifter without making it notchy. Our rear sway bar, just a handful of mods. Like I think if you do that, you have kind of like the ultimate B5 S4 that's drivable and still enjoyable.
OEM plussed out.
Yeah, it's going to be like you're basically recreating, the RS4. You're basically getting a tuned RS4. The car will have amazing power. It's a good handling car. It's nothing like the newer cars, but it's good.
Yeah, no, the suspension in those is still very respectable.
So there is we now sell a full aluminum radiator for it. I don't know. We've never done back-to-back testing with it. It could help with some of the cooling issues, but there's just a lot of motor crammed into that little car.
Yeah, getting good intercoolers on it is key.
The intercooling's key, yeah, for sure. But yeah, that you're probably looking at 10, 15 grand in parts plus whatever labor.
Yeah.
the car is still going to be worth, with all that stuff on it, it's maybe going to be worth 10 grand, or maybe 15 to exactly the right person. But I think that's a good way to go. I would stay away from any of the hybrid turbos or the Chinese turbos or like a lot of stuff that's floating around out there. You're gonna need a good clutch.
Yeah.
Get a nice clutch. We offer all that, but we offer our billet aluminum flywheel with a B7 RS4 clutch kit that will hold stage 3 power and offer pretty much OEM drivability. So, but yeah, I mean, be prepared to spend 20-30 grand on a car that's worth 6. And but if you're going to keep it and you love that car, and I mean, it's a classic body style, like arguably still one of the best looking Audis ever, then go for it. Yeah. Have you guys ever run a WOTBOX on a B8S4? Hell no.
Hell no.
No, we have no interest in that.
Oh, we much prefer to do things like that from the calibration side, so that the ECU is always in control, knows what's going on. Generally, you'll register a pile of misfires on any modern ECUs with a WOTBOX, and things will not go well for you.
I don't know the WOTBOX people, but sorry, we're not. We also don't support the Sprint booster.
No.
Things
there's way better ways to accomplish those results from the actual ECU and calibration side.
Thinking about lowering my B8.5 SQ5 with your Dynamic Plus lowering springs? Yes, you should. We've sold so many of those, by the way.
It's such a good ride for that car.
We've sold like 30 or 40 since we released it. What control arms do you recommend to pair for a daily driven SUV?
I would just.
Do we have arms for that?
Normal arms, yeah.
The FQ5 is the same arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have our density line control arms. That's what we'd recommend.
Yeah, that's all we run on any of the RSQ5 here.
If you want to bring the camber back to stock when lowering, we're correct.
Yeah, and we have camber correcting arms. We have the rear sway bar, which I definitely recommend as well for that. Yeah, no, that'd be a nice setup. Does the rear sway bar spherical end link for the Mk7 GTI make any increase in NVH levels compared to stock? How's the effectiveness of the rear end links compared to stock end links? So when they're new, they won't add any NVH, and they don't really ever add any NVH. So NVH would be noise, vibration, or harshness transferred from the drivetrain into the body of the car. But what does happen with solid spherical links is they do eventually loosen up. And as they do, which is what they're supposed to, noises from them will become more audible. This is not an issue on a race car or an industrial application. And it's not an issue for a lot of our customers that drive their cars every day. But if you're looking for a perfectly quiet end link, then I would put you into our Dynamic Plus end links, which use kind of a more of like an OEM style ball and socket joint that has a rubber boot on it, and those won't make noise, and frankly offer a similar level of performance.
There's some deflection in them because of that rubber isolation, but I mean much less than stock.
Yeah, but some don't have any rubber. Some are the ball and socket on each side. Now, what was the other part of the question?
NVH and then
the performance. So. The benefit of any of our end links is that they can withstand and hold up to the increased stiffness. In some cases, we're doubling the stiffness of the sway bar, and factory end links will break eventually. And that's not necessarily while not broken, they do okay. Some though, like the Mk7, have a rubber bushing on one end, and that does squish and deflect. So it does reduce the effectiveness of the sway bar, because when that bushing squishes, the sway bar can't make up for that. It's like running in sand. You can still run in sand, you just can't run as fast because a lot of your energy is being transferred to moving the sand instead of your body forward. So the sway bar ends up using some of that force to squish the bushing, and that that effect on your vehicle's suspension is diminished. So I definitely recommend looking at our Dynamic Plus stuff. Again, if you don't care about NVH and you want the most adjustability and strength and performance that you can get, then our motorsport stuff's gonna handle any kind of abuse or torture you throw at it. Give us some sort of access port use for the 3.0T. We want to switch files on the go. This is something we're looking into.
Yeah, I mean, you can already switch files on the. I mean, how
Yeah, if
often
you
are
have
we,
the hotspot.
I mean,
Yeah.
the access port's a mini laptop. You can get a tablet if you want something you can put in your box. Like, there's
Right.
there's a lot of different ways around it if you want something a little more affordable. I mean, the access port you still have to plug in and reflash the car. So, I mean, it's so easy to change maps already. That's not something we've put a lot of focus in right now into developing a whole hardware-based, independent flashing solution. But yeah, we understand where that's coming from.
We're looking into this and toying with some ideas, but for us, we have to decide: is that extra little bit of perceived convenience worth the incredible engineering effort, or can we apply that effort towards creating new products that actually make cars faster? And so we're talking about a lot of engineering for some convenience versus engineering for badass fast cars to go faster and be more fun to drive. So we have to make those choices, and we haven't prioritized that level of convenience quite yet because of what Nate said. It's actually pretty easy to do it, very easy to do it right now, especially with all the technology that's out there, right?
Yep.
All right, how are we doing? Not 4 minutes. I accidentally installed B8 S4 OEM strut mounts designed for adaptive suspension when doing 034 springs. I will install your strut mounts when I do control arms, but will this cause problems? I figured you guys would know what the differences are between adaptive suspension strut mounts and non-adaptive. I'm not sure. I've never dealt with this. Do we know anything?
Off the top of my head, I honestly couldn't answer that. So I don't think there's a difference on that strut mount on the adaptive versus non.
I think they use the same strut mounts.
Yeah.
I have to assume.
the fact so
in 8 years, this
this hasn't been a thing. The factory will likely offer a different part number and a different mount because they will change densities, durometers. They change mounts. They have more mounts than there are flavors of potato chips.
They could be different.
The same chassis.
They could be different part numbers just because one's a little softer than the
so
other.
just because it's a different part number doesn't necessarily mean that the fit and mounting provisions are any different. Usually it's some esoteric little change that they made to some engineer determined that they needed that mount to be able to.
I think you're probably fine. I would definitely upgrade to ours because it's more stiff in the future, when you can. But I think you're probably okay.
Yeah.
Driving, on it for now. I think it wouldn't have gone back together.
Right. If there was some functional, core difference, you would have noticed it immediately, I would imagine.
Speaking of temps, I have a dual pulley setup with no heat exchanger. Bought the car like that. Would you prioritize heat exchanger over E40 since that adds cooling?
I mean, I would say if you're running with higher intake temps, you're going to have it's a tough one. I don't know what fuel you're on, but E40 is going to withstand worse intake temps better. Mm-hmm. And generally you'll have a higher octane, you'll have a higher threshold of temperature, resistance there. But you really gotta I would take the lower pulley off, just run one if you want, but we do not recommend running a dual pulley setup.
He's asking if you should run E40 files on dual pulley before getting heat exchanger.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah. I mean, you really need both.
You really
have
both.
to make
if you're running a dual
choice.
pulley. I mean, the E40, like I said, will give you a little more safety margin typically, especially if you're on like 91 octane fuel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say get E40 in there in the meantime, and then get the heat exchanger on there.
But really, just try not to beat on the car super hard,
Yeah, your temps are going to rocket pretty quickly.
Yeah, you don't want to get things real hot like that. So how we doing? Well, Pretty much done, right?
Yep. Usually like under a minute left.
Thoughts on long-term reliability of the B9S4 engine? Do you think it will last? I mean, so far so good. We've had our car for almost 4 years now.
Yep.
And it hasn't been tuned that whole time, but it's been beat on. I drove it for
Tracked
2 years.
It's been, I mean,
Yeah.
there was a TSB for like a fan controller. We had a fan controller fail on ours, but that was covered in the warranty.
I think it's safe to say that it's not a bad problematic motor. Like a lot of these things surface pretty quickly. Like one of that, like the B8 2-liter motors, the piston rings would all wear out. I know a lot of the older V6 motors all had piston ring sealing issues. Some had bearings that would spin for no reason. So no, it's a good motor. You know, we can't talk too long term because the car's only been out for 3.5 years.
You got to wait till that long term comes.
But so far, so good, and there's no reason to think that it's going to be problematic. In fact, it's very, very promising.
Yep.
It appears to be a good motor and very tunable. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining us once again, and we'll be back next week for sure. All right, see you.